Hello, I'm Dr. Catherine Horton. I wanted to make a short video about disinformation, actually, because I think a lot of the things that are being said to victims are essentially disinformation, specifically drawn up to mislead, so that you don't do something else that might help you better. So you essentially get stuck on one solution that isn't really one solution, or you'll think you're okay, but actually you're not. So when I'm going through my list of disinformation, the one thing I don't want you to be is to be insulted because I reject the suggestion that you made and maybe in good faith passed on to me. No, it's not about that, because I can see why you make the suggestion, and I'm really, really grateful. I should say I'm reading everything, and so far I can keep up with absolutely everything people say, so I'm absorbing everything, and I value all suggestions. What I want to do is use my skills as a physicist to help victims in the community, maybe like slowly ratchet towards solutions that really work, and with solutions that maybe don't work, find out what works about them and what not. Because if you suggested something to me, then that's because it worked on you. And when I reject it, I want to make clear which part I reject and which part I think you should keep. And once you recognize what actually helped you, maybe you can find even, multiply it and find even more things like that. So you're not just stuck on just one specific solution, which has a part that's actually not necessary. Okay, so here we go. So don't be insulted. This is literally just me contributing my knowledge as a physicist. So the first one I would like to start with is essentially crystals. So people have been told and also find crystals useful, they keep saying. But the one thing I would like to say is that when you're attacked as a victim, in my experience, you're attacked by two things: diffuse radiation, which is like your mobile phone signal that's being pumped into your home, and the second thing you're attacked with is actually focused beams, so focused microwave beams. Now, if crystals actually made a difference, then you should be able, because as I understand it, the radiation that we are being attacked with is in some cases very similar to the radiation, the mobile phone signal. So the frequencies are not identical but close. Now, if you could make a difference to that, you should be able to put down a crystal somewhere in your room and actually change the strength of the mobile phone signal, if those crystals could actually absorb the energy. But I'm saying, as a physicist, I don't think you'll be able to. I think it's physically impossible, because one little crystal somewhere cannot. And where should the energy go? How should it? Because energy is never lost, you see. So it would have to radiate off the energy. But for this to work, it just physically it just doesn't. So I would say do this test and see if putting the crystal into the room or bringing that crystal into the room, does it change the mobile phone signal? Because I think it's impossible to do. So, but if you can prove to me that you can do that by just putting down a crystal, I think you might be in for a Nobel Prize in physics. That's one thing. And then the second thing is that the actual laser beam. So when you have, or maybe a focused beam, not just a laser beam, again, I don't think the crystal can make any difference whatsoever, unless you really take the crystal and put it into the path of the laser beam. And you can see that by taking a laser pointer, which is also a focused electromagnetic beam, even a laser beam, and put down the crystal and turn on the laser pointer and point it anywhere, at a wall or even the back of somebody, because a laser pointer is safe, visible light is safe. Not into their eye, but into their back, that's okay. But otherwise just against a chair or something. And if you move the crystal anywhere close, unless you put it into the beam, it's not making a bit of a difference, because it cannot. If a crystal had the ability to absorb the energy from a focused microwave beam, it should also have the ability to absorb it from a focused visible electromagnetic beam. And it just does not. Again, if you can set up an experiment and actually show that for a laser pointer, you would be in for a Nobel Prize, I think. But otherwise, I don't think so. So putting down crystals in rooms or any such things are not making a difference. Now, with the jammers, I'm also very, very skeptical, because again, If it's diffuse signal and what they are relying on is actually your brain print, then putting in extra signals and could help if it's of the same intensity. So unless they use a focused beam on your skull, so there with a jammer I can see that actually working, because then your brain is getting lots of signals, so the currents are not exactly that what they want it to be, so but a mix of many other things, so that might actually help. But it could also be that the actual radiation on your head is just being increased as well, and it would have to be radiation that is inducing currents at a very close frequency. So in a sense you would be doing randomly what they do in a focused fashion. But jammers for focused electromagnetic beams are not going to make a difference at all, and that's because photons travel independently, so there's no way that the photons or the electromagnetic waves that I'm passing in a focused beam or even a laser beam get affected by other beams. And you can check that by basically overcrossing two laser pointer beams, not making a bit of a difference, not at the scale that we can tell. I mean, I don't want to go into quantum mechanics, but it doesn't. You can basically have a laser show and beams don't actually stop each other even when they overcross, or block each other out or divert each other's paths. So I don't think that's possible. But I think what's happening with the crystals is that what's being changed is pretty much the same as with meditation, your perception. So you might feel better, or you might think, oh, I think that makes a small bit of difference, but the actual physics does not change. And this is why I think it's dangerous, because I do think that these beams being shot into people cause cancer, cause damage, cause interior damage that's cumulative. And when you trick your perception into thinking everything is okay, but really is not, then it's not very good for the long term. So and I'm saying that not to scare you, because you previously thought the crystal's okay. No. I'm just saying it won't be enough. It will make you feel better, and keep that. So keep whatever makes you feel better is really good, but do not stop there, And that's because, for example, when you see this military kit, with for example, the big active denial system or radar or radio rooms in the military or the army. If you have been in the military and the army and you've seen what sort of stuff they have, you will also notice that to shield it, these people use metal. They do not put crystals down. If crystals helped, then the military would be having super crystals, like big massive crystals. But you do not see the Marines or the army or anybody put down ginormous crystals, because they do not work. And the army, it's like their perception doesn't matter. It's really just about survival. So, that doesn't happen. And then the other thing is also meditation. Now, meditation changes your perception, which is really important when you cannot change your situation. Because when these people want to destroy you psychologically, then meditation will be like, it will be like the atom bomb, because you'll go in and you will become indestructible. And that's what you should really keep as well, okay? So meditation and also crystals, when they change your perception, is good. But remember, it's just your perception being changed. In the meantime, you're still being shot at with cancer weapons, possibly your wife and your children as well. So you have to do more. You have to do more. You also have to use metal shielding if you can. Meshing or anything to try to actually protect them as well. But also I don't want you to just go, I found now and I'm meditating and it's okay. I don't have to do the really stressful stuff like trying to find lawyers or trying to have a court case or stuff like that, because in a sense this is what people want. This is why the meditation is also being pumped, not just by genuine people but also as disinformation, because they want you to freeze and just hold still whilst they're still shooting at you and finish their human experiments on you. They just want you to hold still. They don't give a damn about the long-term effects, the cancer that you're going to get from this. They don't care. They just want you to hold still until they finish. They've got their data and goodbye, And this is why I'm saying, if you just freeze in the path of a laser beam and just go, and it's okay, I'm meditating and I'm imagining I've got a shield and like an energy shield, that is really good as mental training when you can't change your situation, to get through the situation, to get through the pain. But do not stop there, because it will not change reality. It will not change the physics that your body is being shot into with electromagnetic weapons. So meditation and crystals are perception things, but they cannot change the physics. And the physics says that we all, me included, I'm not forcing you to face up to something that I don't have to face up myself. I have to face up to the fact that they essentially damaged my right eye, are now damaging my left eye. They damaged my kidney, as you just saw live on video. It's still hurting. They damaged my knee. They damaged my hip. They have absolutely irradiated my ovaries. I'm probably either infertile, or all my genetic materials inside the eggs, which have all formed now, are damaged forever. And if I ever have children, my children will be damaged, and the entire female line will be damaged forever after. So this is what I have to face up to, okay? I'm not trying to pull you down and make you as depressed as me. No. I'm saying, keep the meditation, keep the crystals, but know that it's a perception thing. And if you want to keep your body safe, you better do what the army does and what the Marines do, which is use metal, And if meditation could block out these attacks, the Marines would be like meditating. They would be on the battlefield meditating, but they're not. They're using like big shields of metal, okay, for this stuff. So that's basically what I'm saying. This is the two things. But as I say, keep the good stuff, because you have to change your perception. And the one thing that you mustn't do is let this like awful stuff weigh you down, and for that, meditation is worth gold. So this is what I'm saying: keep the meditation, keep the crystals, but have extra shielding as well, army style shielding, metal if you can, which I know is really hard. I know how hard it is, okay. Then the other thing is homeopathy, the same thing. When they say homeopathic this and that really helps. No, I'm sorry, there's a reason why there's no homeopathic ambulance. It's because when it's serious and people are dying, you can't give them homeopathy. You can't. And now here's how you can convince yourself that homeopathy is just, again, a perception thing. If it helps you, really good, but remember that it will only change your perception. It will not change reality of what's going on. Sometimes the biggest obstacle is your perception, and then this is worth gold. But you will have to do other stuff as well. And I will now explain to you why I think homeopathy is out. Homeopathy, as I understand it, is diluting stuff down over and over and over. And eventually, the dilutions that they use, ultimately, statistically, there's less than one molecule in the stuff you actually buy. And they say, yes, but water has got a memory effect, and actually the concentration is getting much higher with every dilution. And I have to say, I'm sorry, that's bullshit. As a physicist, I have to say that's bullshit. The concentration doesn't get higher, it gets lower. Water does not have a memory effect. The memory effect maybe lasts for a microsecond, in the turbulence of the molecules, but forget it. And I can prove it to you, because go up to your homeopathy mixing, person and say, well, if you can make stuff stronger, here's a glass of vodka, make the alcohol stronger. I've just diluted it down to 5%. Bring it up back to 40. Bring it up back to 40. Literally, with this glass of vodka, if you can just put a drop into a bathtub and then dilute it down and make it stronger, we should have like the biggest piss up of the entire town. Go. I want to see you make this concentration higher. And I promise you, they will not be able to do that. They can mix it with water, but you'll never get pissed on that stuff ever again. Never, because there will be no alcohol in it. If there were, you should be able to get drunk on the homeopathic version of your vodka. But I promise you, you will be as sober. It will be safe for driving home in your car. So, and alcohol is a very small molecule. So the memory effect of water is not working for very little molecule like alcohol. Now let's take a big molecule, a really complex big molecule. One of the things that you might or might not know is that actually when you have washing powder, the washing powder can actually wash and clean your clothes without making lots and lots of foam, actually, the way the molecules work. But all of us, traditionally, also in soap, hand soap, we kind of have grown up with this perception that lots of soap and bubbles and this kind of like, foam means cleaning. This is what it's meant to be like. But actually, it's not necessary. So both in washing powder and in hand soap, but especially washing powder, they put stuff in that's called foam enhancers. And what this will do is keep this, it's like big, I think, fairly big macromolecules that, it's like a canvas, and then the bubbles will form around them, and it will nicely bubble up this whole thing, and the bubbles will be stable because they will be stabilized by these fairly complex molecules. Okay. So if your homeopathy person couldn't make alcohol, a very short molecule, increasing concentration, try it with the foam enhancers. Take a little bit of washing powder and try with homeopathic solutions, make the concentration higher so that it foams, like foams again or foams even more. And I promise you, they will not be able to do that. If they're proving me wrong, they're in for a Nobel Prize in chemistry or physics. I think you can probably submit it to both. You see, so there are simple ways to check what is bullshit and just cannot work. Homeopathy is a perception thing, and what you're tapping into is the placebo effect, which is very, very powerful, which is that if you think that something helps, you really change your mindset and forget about your problems, forget about the pain. And my mother did it, like she's a doctor, and we were out with friends who were out on a city sightseeing tour, and now this is really funny, but unfortunately the lady who was there, she was prone to very severe migraines and so on and so on, and my mom knew her for years and she knew about that. And then we were out on a sightseeing tour, and she started having a migraine, and she knew that she had to take something in the beginning of the migraine to just block it out, because if she didn't take it, it would get so bad she would have to be basically in bed for the rest of the day. And she was really looking forward to meeting us and seeing the city where we lived, and it was really important to her to have a good day that day. So we went out, and then whilst we were in the car, she started saying, oh my God, I can feel the pulling again in my head. This is again a migraine coming up. And then by the time we arrived and got out of the car, she said, oh my God, I've got again the pulsating of the migraine. And it's like, and she really had these migraines. They were absolutely crippling. So we thought, oh my God, she was so looking forward to this, and we really want to have a good day. So, oh God, the day's over. They were going to go the next day. So that's it, once in a lifetime chance gone. And my mom said, don't worry, I'm a doctor, and I have got migraines too, and that's also true. My mom also suffered from migraines sometimes. And then she said, I've got these special pills, but they are very, very strong, and I get them for myself, on the backhand from the pharmacist, and it's really strong stuff, and I take it for myself, and I'm self-medicating in this because I'm a doctor and I can do that, and it's okay, so this is really strong stuff that you will probably not get yourself from a pharmacist, and probably a doctor wouldn't subscribe it, or prescribe it for you. And she said, but be really careful, because these are very, very small, and the dose is like insane, so that's why it's not very big, and really I wouldn't give you a whole, I think we should go into a restaurant and cut them into half, because if you're not used to that level of medication, right, it might just kill you, so it might just make you feel very, very ill. So let's just go, and we literally went to a restaurant, and my mom got out these tablets. And then she asked for a knife and a plate from the restaurant owner, and just cut these tablets into half, and then gave this guest half of it. And then this guest took it, and then my mom said it takes about half an hour, and we should really sit down and have a coffee and just calm down, and not that you pass out in the street or something like that. So, we sat down, we calmed down, we had something to eat, had a couple of coffees. And then half an hour later, my mom said, are you feeling better now? And this woman said, yeah, like my head cleared, and it's, you know, everything is fine. And then we got up again and we went out and we had the most amazing day. It was just absolutely fantastic. And then in the evening, you know, I was fairly young at the time, and I went up to my mom and I said, so, I mean, are you allowed to do this stuff, Mom? I mean, I didn't know that you had, like, you know, this kind of like black market hand and, like, you know, illegal drugs, and you were taking them. What sort of stuff are you taking? And she said, hey, don't say that before they leave. But I gave her a Tic Tac. You know, I gave her a Tic Tac. I just had a couple of Tic Tacs in my bag, and I thought, shit. I mean, she either will have a rubbish day, or I'll have a one last ditch attempt using the placebo effects, trying to calm her down, get rid of the tension, make her feel, you know, taken care of, and dispel this headache. You know, maybe it's a tension headache. Let's just. And that's what she did. And this woman literally just calmed down. We sat down for half an hour. We calmed down. And, you know, I really believe that she did have, you know, pain. Because she was quite pale as well, you know, at the time. And you could see that it was really getting her down physically. And then we just calmed down, and her perception changed. And that's it. And off she was, you know. But you have to believe it. You have to really, really believe it. It works. And now if I tell you, oh, homeopathy doesn't work, and oh my God, you know, it will never work for you again. No. This is not what it is. What I'm telling you is, at first, you feel like you've lost something. But no, actually, you haven't. All I said is you don't even have to buy that really expensive stuff. Because it will also work. For example, if you have somebody, say a grandmother who you really like, and she makes cakes for you or something like that, or gives you Christmas cookies or whatever, and you just love her really a lot, and that act of kindness, you know, warms your heart. You can also train your brain to take and say, those biscuits that she makes for me, they are my medicine. They are going to fill me with warmth, with love, and make me impervious to everything. And then you can teach yourself what you've discovered taking homeopathy. You can then teach yourself to do with something else, and essentially not pay for that expensive medicine. But I'm not just saying it facetiously. You can first of all transfer it to something else, and then you are in control. Not the pharmacist selling you the homeopathy stuff really for a lot of money. You're in control, but you're doing the same thing, and you can make yourself believe. And if you really teach yourself, you cannot just do it with stuff that you consume. Do you see what I mean? I'm now, after I've broken this down, I'm now teaching you something where it can become even more powerful using the same thing. Because then, when you know this is, you can choose, you can do the same thing with music. So you don't even have to consume pills and stuff like that you have to buy. You can do it with other food items that people give you that make you feel positive. You know, you can have it. You just have to have a little ceremony. You have to, and the ceremony is part of it. You have to have a little ritual, because the ritual will condition your brain to switch states, you know, from a very depressed one, from a very ill pain, you know, one from suffering from pain, to one that's very empowered, where you're in control, where you're radiating, you know. And this is why I want to break down the homeopathy, so that you can throw away the stuff that you don't need, but you can keep the stuff that really helps you, which is this super powerful placebo effect, and learn how to consume other things, and say really healthy food. You know, suddenly you can just go to the market and have an orange that looks really good, and say the vitamins in that's what's gonna just annihilate all the cancer seeding that they did with this weapon. It will be the vitamin C that's going to just flush it out of my system. And then you will start eating really healthy food, and then that will be good for you. And then you do the same thing with carrots or with broccoli, whatever. And you just say it's either the color or the freshness. And by consuming that, it will annihilate this. And then bit by bit. And actually, at first I thought it doesn't work when you're doing it consciously, but I tried it on myself. And then you can then think yourself what you want to be your medicine. And you can switch medicines, you know. If you're now really upset at home and you've run out of homeopathy stuff, and all you have is oranges at home, it will be the oranges. When you've run out of oranges and you just have, whatever, I don't know, salad leaves, or then you pick that. Or when all you have is a chocolate bar, it doesn't have to be just healthy food. I'm just saying the healthy food will be genuinely healthy and genuinely, help you against cancer. But when all you have is a chocolate bar, then it's just a chocolate bar. It's the sheer energy, the joy that sugar gives, that is contained in sugar, and that will be just unleashed. It will be like brain fodder. Your brain will lit up and you'll think about all the many things that you can do to fight this evil, to reach out to other people who are even weaker than you. And you will take that energy and transform it into something else. Do you see? This is why I'm saying, if you learn to just take that, what you've discovered using homeopathy, and now go to the next level, it's like dropping your crutches in a sense and learning to walk yourself. Learning to walk again completely freely, because then you determine where you're going. You determine what you use as a crutch or what you hold on to climbing a mountain. You don't need crutches anymore. There you go. Do you see? The same with the crystals. If you discovered that the crystals make you feel better, realize that they're not going to change the underlying physics, but they change the perception, and that might be enough that you just get up off your chair, go out, interlink with people, talk to the right senators, talk to the right people at the council, get it into the police officer's head that this really exists and it is his job to get on your case. And don't underestimate the power of that, really don't underestimate the power of that. So that's what I want you to do. And the same with prayer. This is so important. I want to have an entire separate video about prayer and God, and because I said I'm an atheist, and I want to make clear what that means, so that you know what I mean by that, and what I don't believe in and what I do believe in, because it is important to connect to people on that level as well. But the same thing with prayer. If you pray, what you will do is you will go into a space where you're connected with God, but it doesn't change the underlying physics. If these people still shoot at you, do not rely on just that. Because clearly, in your language, in the language of religion, God clearly got you into that situation because he wants you to find a solution, right? He got you into that. You find a solution. If you go back to God and he finds a solution, of course you can find a solution, but it's your task, because somewhere in this situation there's something hidden that you need to learn, someone you need to meet, or someone you need to help. And it's like a computer game. You have to find where this is hidden. There's somewhere encoded something. There's a reason why you're there, and you have to find the reason. You have to get that bonus point or that hidden clue, because God really wants you to do something. But if you just sit at home and pray, it's essentially like going back, your father sets you a challenge, and then you go back to daddy and you're like, please daddy, give me the solution. Well, of course he can give you the solution. That's not the point. So use prayer to get back into sync, to remind yourself it's okay, he's taking care of you, it's all fine. Communicate progress, communicate your thoughts, because it will really help you to just be aware of what you feel, what's bothering you, and do all that, everything that you would do in prayer. But don't just pray, okay? Because then, it's even in the terms of religion, as I understand it, it is defeating the point. You have to do much more. So when people say to me, I'm praying for you, I am so grateful. Even as an atheist, I'm really grateful, because if I were religious, I would think someone else is interceding and, in this talking to God and reminding him of my importance. But if God is omnipotent, he knows about me, just like MI5 and MI6. They know about me. They've known about me for ages. God knows about me, if he exists. So he doesn't need reminding. But if you pray for me, I am so grateful, because I know that what you do is that you keep me in your mind. You're keeping up the connection, and I need this connection to survive. I need this to pass on everything I know to you, so that you can pass it on further, so that you can help somebody else, hopefully, with the information I give you. So even if you can't help me directly, I don't mind, because by praying for me, you remind yourself of what I've told you. It plays through in your mind. And that's really important, because I am giving you something I've received from others, and I want to pass it on to you. And I want you to pass it on to even more people. Do you see? So you see that even for an atheist we can talk in the same terms, because in a sense we're doing exactly the same thing. I mean, just as an atheist, I don't have anybody to turn to in prayer, so I just do it myself. I remind myself, and what I'm doing in my mind is, instead of turning to God, I'm turning to people who I know are suffering. In my mind I turn to them, or I know who have already died for me, for us, or who have died from other illnesses and so on, and I keep them in my mind. So instead of referring to God, I refer to them, and I think, oh my God, could I have done something? This time I want to do something. You know, for example, to give you an example, what I kind of keep in my mind, I mean, this is really personal, but I want you to know, I'm also really just like, I'm so bothered and ashamed by this, because like, God, I can't even remember when it was like a year or two ago, and that was when they were discussing so all the benefits got cut in the UK, and this was all benefits for disabled people, and when it was being discussed that these cuts are happening, and the cuts were, brought in, there was a guy called Russell Brand. He's actually a comedian, and he had a video, like a video blog going on, which I thought was really good. I watched it like religiously, every single one. It was really funny and always made you laugh and made you think at the same time, so I thought it was brilliant. And then in this phase, I didn't even know about these benefits being cut, because I was really busy at the time. And then he had one show where he actually talked about these benefit cuts, and he thought that's absolutely awful, and that we should really do something about that, and we should speak up, and we should fight. And at the time I was actually in Germany when this happened, and then what he did is he interviewed a couple of disabled people. I remember one lady was called Penny, and the other person, I forgot her name unfortunately, but her face and her words stuck with me forever, essentially. And these were disabled people who were talking to him on Skype and explaining, look, if they cut the benefits, we won't be able to like get out of bed on our own. We'll be alone at night. Because of our disability, we can't rise from bed. If anybody comes in or something happens to us, we're essentially stuck. It's like a terrifying prospect. We can't do the most basic things. We can't go to the bathroom. It's so humiliating, it's so degrading, and just because they just withdrew the money. And at the time I was very into studying the financial system and studying what exactly was going wrong, and I knew that all these cuts were utterly unnecessary. And I remember just watching this video, these interviews essentially, which Russell Brand did with Penny and the other lady, and literally I had tears running down my cheeks. I was so angry. I was so angry that this was being done to them. And these ladies just came on, and they just talked about really just how humiliating it was, and very humiliating details, and they just went public and they just said, this is happening to us. And I remember I was so angry. I told my husband, and I said, this just can't be true. I mean, it's really, we've come as a society, like to this point where we're doing that. We're essentially doing that to them. Like, how can this be? And I remember I was so angry, and I just thought, but I can't do anything. I'm in Germany. I can't do anything about this. This is like an English law. It's being brought in England. There's nothing I can do. And this was stupid. It was stupid. I never actually wrote to anybody about it. I never spoke up about it. I could have made, like, how easy would it have been to make, like, literally phone calls to people and just say no. I mean, it might not have changed anything, but maybe it might have done. And the fact that not just I didn't do anything, no one did anything. No one. Like, they just brought in these laws, and they're essentially Nazi laws. They're essentially just like leaving the weakest in society to just fend for themselves. I mean, how insane is that? And like the fact that I was in Germany and I could have spoken up. I mean, the English couldn't have done anything. They couldn't have sent, even if I made harassment phone calls to the politicians, until they got pissed off, they couldn't have sent the police to arrest me because I wasn't in their country. So I would have been like the perfect person to speak up about this, and I didn't. I didn't. And this just stayed with me forever, and then also at that time also my business had just not really worked, and my business was meant to be helping people get back into work, but also think about new jobs and have a much more dynamic, like like work ecosystem, which could have integrated people who were disabled, by literally coming up with new jobs, and using everybody like a little precious puzzle piece to build something else, build up something else that's entirely tailored to them, but they would fit into a much bigger structure with their skills. And that had failed, and I felt like I've let down these people like twice. And this happened way before I started being physically attacked. And now since January I'm being physically attacked. I'm helpless. I am just hoping that people will speak up for me, and I just keep saying, but you're in a different country. You could just like shout at the politicians here in Switzerland, down the phone. You can shout at the German ambassador and he can't do anything. Why don't you do that? And I realize you're not doing it for the same reason I didn't do it then. Do you see? And basically this is now in my head, in my mind, I always think this is now the price I pay for not speaking up for the disabled people. How the hell could I have let them down like that? How the hell could I have let them down like that? And I am going to be disgusted with myself until the end of my life, really. And literally all I can do now, I mean, just today I received a message over Twitter from a lady. She said, look, I'm now a single mom raising a child with autism. You know how hard it is to raise a child with autism? That's like one of the most challenging things a mother can possibly do, or a disabled child, And then she says, we've now been attacked for 13 years, like harassed. And I have been harassed by these thugs as well. So I know what sort of scum we're talking about, like what utter dregs of society, But when I hear that, when I heard that message today, I thought, right, this is it. This is now my second chance. I was given a second chance to go back, and this time I'll speak up. This time I want to know, literally, I'm going to message that lady and I want to know what district you're in, who the police, I'm going to Google who the police officer is, and I'm going to call him here from Switzerland. Literally, I'm gonna harass these people here, and I'm gonna take no shit from them. Literally, usually I'm not like, oh yeah, I'm Dr. So-and-so, I do put my title in, but that's to put myself, distinguish from all the other Catherine Hortons that are there. But then I'm gonna say, literally, listen, what the hell's going on? What the hell's going on in your district? You're the head of police. How the hell can you not do something? And I'll keep going, because disabled people are being harassed. And I knew already from the lady called Doreen Dotan. She said in one of her videos she's 60% disabled, and she gets attacked, and she gets mauled by these degenerates. Like, how? What? And literally, when the benefits got cut in the UK, I did not speak up. And I cannot forgive myself. But with this lady, I will. I will personally speak up. Really. And not just that, I'm also going to speak up about the benefit cuts in the UK. Now the UN has come out and has said that actually this is like a grave violation of the rights of disabled people. I mean, how many years did it take for that to become public? But it doesn't matter, because so many disabled people killed themselves. They actually killed themselves. They couldn't cope with the humiliation and just the stress and especially this feeling that society has rejected them and said, we do not care about you, go and die. Like, can you believe that? Like, this actually happened. So, you know, this is what I mean. I might not believe in God, but I do take humans very, very seriously, and I believe in humans, you know. And when this stuff happens to me, I think, yeah, it happens to many, many more people. And this is why I'm saying, you know, if you want to help me, I'm so grateful. But with me, also keep somebody else in mind, you know. If you help me and I'm on the other side of the globe, I want you to help somebody also who's really close to you, because you clearly have the capacity to help. So, and you can do both at the same time. You can do both at the same time. So I just want to make clear that, you know, I might not believe in God, you know, but I do believe in people. And I think ultimately this is what, as I understand it, God actually wants us to do, right? And then every one of us can sort it out with Him personally, you know, what we think or our relationships with Him. But and also one last thing about religion, now that I mixed it into this video, I mean, I don't really want to talk, you know, like, if you're an atheist, you might take the view that a lot of what the church churns out is disinformation. And I think it is. It is a lot of it. So it's, in a sense, religion and God, I keep it in this disinformation video. But what I want you to know is that I also know that a lot of stuff in religion is not disinformation. It's essentially the wisdom of humanity, you know, distilled into a book. And it's everybody's duty to pick out what's wisdom and what might be disinformation put in by the people who wrote the book, who themselves were also just human. But you can pick out the wisdom yourself, you know. But there's one thing one of the things that I found was very, very touching was a video, and I have to dig it out because I thought it was very good. I just by chance clicked on it, and it was essentially a young man who, I think so, I have to remember, but he was making the point that inside the Bible, you know how we've got all these churches these days and they're beautifully decorated, and he was making the point that actually inside the Bible there's nothing. At no point does it say that you have to have these churches and you have to worship in churches. And he was making the point that at nowhere in the Bible does it say we need to have these magnificent buildings and we need to go there to worship and we need to decorate them and that's what God wants. And he was, and I thought he was very convincing. He said that every single time, in every instance when it's about churches, what it actually is your community. So when you come together and you interlink and you connect, that is your church. You know, your group, your community of worship, that's your church. The people you hold on to, you know, the people who you support and interlink, that's your church. And in another reading, your church or place of worship is you. It is your physical being. You're the church of God. Do you see? We are, and he can do it much more justice. I have to dig it out, and then you can check the argument himself. And I thought that's exactly what I can agree with as an atheist, because I personally think that evolution which has brought us about, or nature, if you like, nature and it's all its you know, little trial and errors that has brought us about, is essentially, that is the edifice, that is the achievement of nature. We are, you know, this, I would say, macroscopic assembly of microorganisms, you know, lots of different cells all working together to make my eyes, my ears, my brain and my body. That in itself is such an achievement. It's like a church built by nature, and it also can move on its own. So it's having like a moving church, you know, that can walk off by itself. And as a as an atheist, someone who looks and studies nature and the laws of physics, for me, human beings and animals and plants and these sort of things are such a beautiful creation of nature. And if you call nature God, I can agree with this, that these are the churches of God. And by killing a human being, you desecrated a church of God. You see, you have destroyed something that God has built and God has created. So when I saw that video, I thought, I understand. If it's like that, I understand what religious people mean. If it's what the church says, I don't understand. I'm against that. It doesn't make sense, and everything I've seen in my life says that's not right. But when it's like that, I think we're saying the same thing. I just call it nature, you call it God. You call it the laws of God, I call it the laws of physics. But it doesn't matter, they are eternal laws. And it's those laws that bring about us, that bring about the churches of God. Do you see what I mean? So I think, in a sense, even if I say I'm an atheist, you and I might be saying the same thing, just with different words. In my prayers, if you like, I would call them thoughts, or, essentially musings. In the evening, which I have every night, every time I go to bed, I automatically, it reruns my day. Maybe every night you go and pray, and you rerun your day. So we're doing the same thing, but I don't turn to God, I turn to my memory of people, of what I have done or haven't done for them, what they stood for, what they're standing for, and that's what I do. So we're doing the same thing, really, and who cares what we call it. So anyway, this is basically what I wanted to say. So I guess the only thing I want you to take away from this is that even if I call something disinformation, there's something we latch on to for a certain reason. I'm now talking more about the other stuff I mentioned, like meditation and crystals and so on. So do not be upset because I'm saying that. Analyze what we're latching onto, what helps us, distill it down, strip away the other stuff, and really understand what it's good for, and then amplify its power. Do you see? And it doesn't matter if it's crystals, it doesn't matter if it's homeopathy, or meditation, or prayer, or religion, but distill it down to what exactly helps you, what exactly is good about it, and then amplify it and multiply it. And similarly, if you want to help me, distill it down to, in its core, what you're doing by helping me, and ask yourself, can you multiply its effect? Can you also help somebody else? So for example, if you retweet what I'm saying, can you also keep an eye on maybe a disabled person who's fighting for benefits in the UK or anywhere else in the world? Or can you also please follow somebody who is maybe a victim of child sex abuse and is now fighting for justice and is tweeting? Because if you retweet what I'm saying with the same effort, probably if you follow them as well, then you can retweet their tweet as well and amplify the effect. So let's all do that, please, let's all do that. And then we can take all the lies and cheats around us, take what they say, and when they tricked us, find out why, how did they do it, what was bad about it, what was good about it, take the good bits and amplify them. I mean, there's no better way to spy people who want to do you ill by just taking what they've given you and turn it into gold. Do you see what I mean? So anyway, it's now 2 a.m. in the morning here in Switzerland, and that's all I want to say. I hope it helps somebody. Have a good night, and wherever you are in the world, I'm really with you. Whatever you're going through, I guess, if anything, what I went through just helped me to understand what you're going through, and I will try to solve my problem. I'm also trying to solve other people's problems at the same time. And if I ever manage to solve my problem, I will solve your problem too. I will help you solve your problem. really, because that's what we all are. We should be problem-solving machines. We should be there for each other. So, good night.